The Man in the Event Part 3. After that last visit, I left again. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I kept picturing that eye in the vent, watching, silent, impossibly still. I wanted to believe it was a trick of the light, a prank, maybe a raccoon with a weird face or something. But I knew better. I stayed away for 2 weeks. I tried to get out of the lease, offered to pay a penalty just to leave early. But Mrs. Halpin wouldn't budge, said I was imagining things, said there was nothing living down there except you and your fear. So I did something desperate. I contacted a guy I knew through a Reddit forum, Paranormal Urban Anomalies, or some stupid title like that. He called himself Ezra, said he investigated weird architecture and hidden zones in residential buildings. I didn't believe in any of that crap, but I also didn't have many options. He came over that weekend, tall and pale, with a GoPro strapped to his chest and a little handheld LiDAR scanner. Old buildings sometimes have undocumented crawl spaces, buried utility tunnels, obsolete ventilation. You'd be surprised how many forgotten places there are in modern homes, he said, walking into my apartment like he'd done it 100 times. I followed him as he scanned the rooms. He paused near the kitchen. There's a cavity here, he muttered, between the vent shaft and the bathroom wall, too large for standard ductwork. He opened the vent and shined his flashlight in. Then he started tapping on the wall beside it, listening to the hollow thunk it made. After a few minutes, he looked at me. You said something was crawling in there. Yes, I said, but not like a rat, something bigger. He stared into the duct, unmoving. Then he asked quietly, did the previous tenant ever come back for their things? What do you mean? This place feels lived in, but not just by you. That was the first time I realised something that should have been obvious. I never met the person who lived here before me. I never even saw them move out. I went upstairs. I asked Mrs. Halpin, point blank, who lived in the basement before I moved in. She smiled tightly like someone holding back a secret they'd never wanted to share. A young man, quiet, kept to himself, disappeared one day. Disappeared? I asked. Did you report it? She looked away. He was late on rent. I figured he'd just skipped town. People do that sometimes. But you didn't check the unit. I gave it a few weeks. Then I cleaned it out myself. I felt sick. Back downstairs, Ezra had pulled something from the duct. A piece of cloth, frayed and dark blue, with a single button still attached. The same kind of button I'd found on my counter. He also found something else. A small brittle notebook wrapped in a plastic bag. He handed it to me like it was something sacred. Found it lodged in the cavity wall. Could be nothing. Could be important. I didn't open it until that night. The writing inside was messy, erratic. Dated about a year before I moved in. There's someone in the vent. I've heard them breathing for days. I told the landlord. She just smiled. I blocked the vent. He moved to the wall. He doesn't eat. He doesn't sleep. He just watches. He's under the floor now. The final entry was just one word, written over and over in increasingly wild loops. Hollow. 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 That was when I realised what Ezra had meant. Whatever this thing was, it didn't live in the vent. It lived between things. The hollow places in the walls, the dead zones between rooms, the black gaps behind drywall and under floorboards, the forgotten spaces people build around and then forget. And maybe, just maybe, it had once been human. The notebook confirmed something else too. The man who lived here before me didn't disappear. He was still here, but something had taken him, consumed him. Not like a beast, but like a space swallowing a person. And that space wasn't empty anymore. That night I stayed up again watching the vent. At 3:23 a.m. I saw movement, subtle at first, then more pronounced. Not just the vent shaking, the wall pulsed like it was breathing. And then I saw it, a face, pressed to the inside of the metal slats. The same face from my nightmare. Only now it was real, skin stretched too tight, eyes wide with no colour, mouth hanging open but unmoving. No scream, just watching. I moved out the next morning, broke the lease, paid the penalty, never looked back. A few weeks later I checked the listing online. The apartment had already been reposted. Cosy basement unit, quiet neighbourhood, ideal for singles, no mention of the vents, or the man who still lives in them. But sometimes when I'm alone in my new place, and the house is quiet, I hear it again. Scrape. Pause. Tap. Tap. Scrape. And I swear for a split second I feel the wall behind me breathe. Follow for more stories coming soon.